Is there any way I can make my loaf cats even cuter? It's a totally normal question that I know you must be asking yourselves multiple times a day if you're anything like me. And don't worry, I have the answer. It's fruit loaf cats. In this video, I'll share 3 different modifications you can make to my pattern, so you can crochet an army of fruit cats for your next market. If you don't already have my cat pattern and you'd like to try it, it's available on my Etsy and Ravelry. I also created a PDF pattern for the fruit cats themselves that includes written instructions for all of the modifications I will be making, as well as the full color list that I use to create 12 different types of fruit cats. How many times do you think I'm going to say fruit cats in this video? Anyway, let's get started with the easiest modification and make some fruit slice cats. I haven't made an orange juice cat yet, so I thought it'd be a really fun addition for my market next month. If you're using my loaf cat pattern, then you'll want to crochet 2 less rows in the center than you normally would. Now let's do some color changes so that we can turn this kitty into an orange. I use a super simple way to change colors. I don't finish my last stitch and I pull through with the new color that I'm changing to. That way I have a fresh start for my new color row. I like to crochet a few stitches just to make sure that everything is secure before I tie the ends 3 times, alternating the end I'm knotting with to make sure that it is secure. If you're still nervous about your knot coming loose over time, you could add a dot of Arlene's Fabric Fusion to the knot before you tie it for the last time. I've never had an issue with one of my knots coming undone, but that might be in part because I do use Bernat blanket and not different types of chenille yarn that aren't as structurally sound because they're held together by a twisted thread in the middle. Once we're finished crocheting one row using the accent color, we're going to move on to our next and color change in the same way. Instead of pulling through to finish our last stitch with the color that we're using, we're going to change over to the rind color and pull through to finish a stitch before we continue crocheting for 2 rows. The reason I added an extra row to the fruit slice cat modification is to make sure that the color changes are well established before we add the feet in the row after. The rest of the cat is super easy and you continue to use the pattern normally. I like to sew on details following the natural flow of the crochet stitches in order to further clarify what type of fruit my cat is supposed to be. So far I've made lemon, lime, orange, watermelon, and dragon fruit. In the next part of the video, I'll show you how to make 2 different types of whole fruit cats, starting with a cute little leaf hat modification you can add. I just got a new color of Bernat Baby Sparkle that I've never used before, so I thought it'd be really fun to make a sparkly lemon cat together. These sparkly yarns are one of my favorites to use, but you have to be aware that they are a little bit heavier weight than normal Bernat blanket. This little leaf hat is super easy to make and you can add it to anything like little fruit friends. To start off, we're going to create a slip knot and then chain 5. I like to leave a long tail because we're going to have to hide that end later on. Once we have our starting chain worked up, we're going to want to skip the first 2 chains on our hook and double crochet into the 3rd chain. This will create a rounded bottom to our leaf. And now we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next 2 chains until we reach the point at the end where we will be chaining 2 to create that point, and then turning our work to the side to work on the other side of the chain. We're going to be repeating what we just did by single crocheting into the next 2 chains and then adding a double crochet into the 3rd. Now let's finish off the rounded bottom of the leaf by chaining 2 and slip stitching back into where we started. Sometimes it can be a little hard to slip stitch with fuzzy yarn, but I think the trick is turning it towards you a little bit. That's also why I like to use an inline hook by Susan Bates because it's really pointed. Let's finish off our leaf with a little loop stem by chaining 5 and slip stitching right back into the same stitch we've been working in. I like to pull my end through to the back of my work and then I'm left with a cute little leaf hat. Now is a great time to weave in the starting end through the center of the leaf and join it right to the back of where our other end is. We can tie it 3 times and hide the knot later on when we're sewing it onto our kit. I like to position the hat with the peak towards the back so it looks like a cute little top hat, but you could experiment and sew it on any way that you like. One of my biggest tips for sewing a piece onto a plushie is to secure the front and the back right off the bat so that you're sure it'll stay where you want it to. Another tip is to always bring your needle up through the back of the piece you're adding on and then down through the same hole you just created. I feel like it really joins pieces on seamlessly and you don't have to worry about getting sewing marks so much. Once I work my way around the entire leaf, I end right where I started and thread them through my needle before inserting the needle into the same stitch that the knot is in so that I can tug it a little and the knot will be hidden inside the plushie. It's also really easy to just tug on your strings a little right before you cut them so they'll bounce back and be inside the plushie. In the last portion of the video, I'll show you how to make my favorite and and best-selling fruit cats, berry cats. I haven't made a sparkly hot pink strawberry cat yet, so let's make one together. I crocheted the body of this cat using my solid loaf cat pattern. And I know it's not super ideal to sew on the seeds after you've already stuffed your plushie because it does make a lot of fuzzies, but I like to sew on the seeds all over the cat's body, and it's kind of the only way to make sure I do it all at once. So I just removed the fuzzies after with a lint roller, which I promise I'm not like a representative for Bernat, but it's another advantage to using Bernat over some chenille yarns, because I made the mistake of using a lint roller on something made with like chenille home slim when I first started, and it tore the entire thing apart. But it's totally safe to use a lint roller on Bernat blanket. I work my way around the plushie, trying to space the seeds evenly, and I'm always mindful of the natural direction of the crochet stitches so that I go along with them and the seeds don't look out of place. Once I'm happy with my sewn on details, I end right where I started and tie the ends together, you guessed it, 3 times, before I use my crochet hook to hide the knot. Now that the details are finished, let's add a cute little stem hat to officially make this a strawberry cat. We're going to start with a magic circle and single crochet 6 within it. We're going to be working in the round, so we want to completely ignore that first slip stitch we made in the magic circle and work right into the top of the first single crochet. We will be adding 1 single crochet per stitch, so it'll be a total of 6 single crochets total around. Once we've reached where we started, it's helpful to use your finger to ensure the outside is facing out. We want to slip stitch into the next stitch and then chain 4. We're going to continue doing this all the way around by chaining 4, slip stitching, chaining 4 until we have 6 loops around the base of our stem that look like little leaves. Leave a long tail because we're going to be using it to sew the stem hat onto the cat's head. Tie your ends and use your starting end to stuff the little stem. Thread your long end onto the needle so we can use it to sew the hat onto the cat's head. We'll be sewing this onto our plushies the same way we did the leaf hat, by securing the front and the back first and then working our way around. I always like to make sure that there are 3 loops in front of the cat's ears and 3 loops behind, so that way it always looks even. I always thread my loop up through the back of the piece I'm adding on and then down through the same hole into the plushie. I repeat this 6 times, working in the single crochet behind the loop around the cat's head so that the hat will be super secure. Once I finish sewing the hat on, I thread my needle to the back and find a little loop that I can tie onto. I tie my knot 3 times and then pull tight to hide it within the plushie. These little stem hats are my favorite modifications to add to plushies because you can turn literally anything into a strawberry. I just added them to some of my new Sweet Bunny plushies and it looks so cute. My daughter really wants to say something, so here she is.
Bye-bye.
I hope you liked the video and that you crochet an army of fruit cats for your next market. I don't have a big fancy yarn wall, I'm kind of just in front of my wardrobe full of yarn. I wanted to take a chance to say thank you to everyone who's downloaded one of my patterns. I never really expected it to be popular, so it's really cool to see all of the stuff you guys are making. I kind of challenged myself to make this video to see if I actually liked making long form YouTube videos, and I really do, so going forward I definitely want to focus my free time on making more. That being said, I don't have a lot of free time because I take care of my daughter in the day and work on my hobbies at night. And that's why the lighting isn't always great. So I'll do my best to keep making patterns and tutorials with the free time that I do have. And once again, I really want to say thank you to everyone who's been so nice. Bye!